The Deen of Islam, the Deen people normally translate it as a religion. The meaning of Deen, we're not going to get into it, is not the same as a religion. We could spend many hours talking about it, but we just say the Deen of Islam, and we understand what I'm talking about. We're talking about our Deen. If you take it in its entirety, as a whole, we can say it has three aspects. For those of you who already watched the video I've shared earlier, three things. In other sense, we when we talk about the Deen of Islam, we need to remember from what angle are we talking about, because if you start mixing things, that just shows that we don't understand anything. Because this teaching is not like the teaching in the madrasa for kids, where you just expected to repeat and memorize. That's very good to memorize Arabic alphabet, to memorize Quran, basic du'as and surahs and so on. But this is adult education. Here it is about understanding, more than memorization. And if you understood, you don't have to memorize, because you can always look it up when someone asks you for specific reference to back it up. Understanding is much more important than memorization. So to understand the whole Deen of Islam can be looked at from three angles. So you could say it has three pillars, if you wish. Islam, Iman, Ihsan. Here immediately you understand that the word Islam comes in two meanings. When we say, oops, that's too thick. When you say the Deen of Islam, you can mean the Deen, you can mean the whole thing. And then you can say Islam, you can mean one specific aspect of the Deen of Islam. So you see, Islam can refer to whole, and then Islam can refer to part of a whole. It's like, the word, for example, nafs, self. When we can use the word nafs, we can mean the whole human being. Like if you look in a mirror and you say, I see myself in a mirror, by meaning self, you mean your whole self in its entirety. And also self, we can mean it as opposite of body, like something closer to soul, like who you are. Like they would use the word ego in psychology, right? It's Freudian thing. So in the same way, when you mean Islam, you can mean the whole, and you mean Islam is you mean the aspect of it, one of the pillars of the whole. So what's Islam, Iman, and Ihsan? You're probably familiar with the literal term, but Islam, in its essence, is that aspect of the Deen which is external, which is what you say and which is what you do. I mean, what you say, it's also part of what you do, but we're just being very, very specific and narrow, yeah. So it is outward manifestation of the Deen. The word Islam literally means submission. So the whole thing, yes, it is submitting to Allah. But here, when we say Islam is one of the three aspects, or one of the three pillars of it, we mean external submission. Submission in what you say, submission in what you say with your tongue, submission in what you do with your limbs, with your body. Now, the word Iman, people like to translate it as faith, right? That's very interesting, because it's a Christian kind of phenomenon to say faith, and by saying faith, meaning the whole Deen. And I find it very interesting, because when we want to make reference to the whole thing, we speak about outward, external words and action, because I'm saying Islam can mean outward, external, what you do, what's visible, and it can mean the whole. And in the English language, which is obviously influenced by Christianity, basically came from Christian vocabulary and understanding, when we say faith, we mean the whole thing. So that's why in English language, you can see people say Christian faith, Jewish faith, Muslim faith. So when they speak about the whole, they put at the core of it, like it's all about belief, like it's all about Iman. So it is like talking about the Deen, we would be using about the whole thing. We would not be saying Islam as the whole. We would be saying Iman as the whole. Why? And that's because Christians don't have something what we have. They don't have Sharia. They don't have law which govern external actions. So, yes, Christian. No, why? Because we know Jesus or Isa, son of Maryam, came specifically to sons of Israel, and they had their Sharia. But Christianity, besides the fact believing that Jesus Christ is God, said he came to the whole humanity. But there is a problem. There is no Sharia. Then how? They cannot take Sharia, which is specific for Banu Israel, and then what they come up is say, no, Sharia. There is no Sharia. The Sharia is God is love, love your neighbor as you love yourself, and so on. So they kind of say that your internal beliefs somehow supposed to guide you to how to act. We disagree. We say Allah gave us, taught us beliefs, that's Iman, and Allah taught us external actions, this is Islam. And then you have the third part, Ihsan, which literally means to make things perfect, and also in this context, sincerity. So one thing you do what you do outwardly and externally, another thing what's in your heart, or you can say in your mind, and other thing, this is all done with sincerity. So if we will go into more details, they will say, for example, what you do externally, it happens on your body level, it happens on your wealth level. So, for example, salah, done with your body, right? You make ruku, you make sujood, you recite Quran, this is the action, this is the words. Fasting, you do it with your body, you abstain from certain things during the day. Zakat, you do it with your wealth. Yes, it's action, but not that reflects in your body, reflects in your wealth. Hajj, both your body and your wealth. And this is just basic pillars, right? Because then we also have things which regulate what we do with our body and what we do with our wealth. For example, things related to marriage, legal rulings related to nikah, this is all part of Islam, external words and actions. They regulate what happens with our bodies. They have also regulate what happens with our wealth. Now, when it comes to eternal belief, that's what we're going to focus now, because this is the core. And also this is the part which I find, unfortunately, not taught today sufficiently. So I will start with what's most important, and I will start with what's the most absent. And if you talk about ihsan, what is this? Ihsan, essentially, we can say that it is when your internal, that's my quote, inward life that shines outward. So in other words, your internal beliefs start manifesting itself through actions. So what it means that people do what's obligatory, let's say making salah, not just because you forcing yourself. Yes, at the beginning you force yourself, but out of love for Allah, out of desire to stand in front of Allah. Same thing, you stay away from haram, not only because you remember about punishment, but you find it reprehensible. You find it because your heart is pure and you connected with Allah. So you find it reprehensible just thinking about it. So that's ihsan, but that's